It was the 22nd of May, 1867, the Derby. Henry had backed the odds-on favourite, Verdun. Right from the start, Verdun was in the lead. All the way round, he was leading. Then in the final furlong, a rank outsider called the Hermit started to gain ground. With every step, he got closer. Won by a neck. The sport of kings had destroyed our King Henry X. By the age of 25, our Henry X had frittered away the family fortune, running up millions of pounds of debts. He got another name, the King of the Plungers. A year later, his liver gave out. On his death, the family were forced to auction wines, art, and the family estates to pay his creditors. Loudon Castle today is a shell overlooking a theme park complete with rides and wallabies to attract the masses. Suddenly, our alternative line had run slap bang into the real world. I realised that the real king or queen today probably wasn't some toff living in a stately home, but an ordinary person in a normal house. As I traced the last few generations, I found the truth. From the 20th century, there were more names and faces. Tragic deaths in both world wars that meant we should have had both a Queen Edith and, until last year, a Queen Barbara I. And then suddenly I was there. I couldn't quite believe it, but I had a name and an address for the person who should be ruling Britain today. In 1960, when the present occupant of Buckingham Palace was still in the first decade of her reign, a young man set sail from England. He was heading for a new life abroad. He didn't know it, but he was leaving his kingdom behind. Good morning. After discovering a flaw in the royal succession, I traced the line of true kings and queens that leads to the person who's Britain's real monarch. But he'd emigrated. The true heir to the throne was born in Britain, but now lives in the Australian outback.
That's all there is to it. That's it. Not much difficulty finding him there, should we? Would think so. Should we go down and have a look? Yeah, sounds good.
His name is Michael Hastings. Armed only with my family tree and my increasing obsession with the subject, I went to tell the man who should be King Michael I the good news. As I drove into Jerilderie, New South Wales, population 1100 plus one king, I began to realise how daft this might look. I knew he was in town. I'd phoned him from Britain and told him we were looking into the descendants of the Plantagenets, but otherwise, King Michael was in the dark. .74. 12,000 miles, 2.5 days and a lot of jet lag, and I'm finally here. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure how to play this. I mean, if someone turned up on your doorstep and said, "Excuse me, do you know that you're the King of England?" you'd be a bit surprised, wouldn't you? Particularly if they had a director with them and a sound man and a cameraman. So I think what I'll do is I'll just talk to him about some of the facts first of all, relax him a bit, and then hit him with the real import of what we've got to say at the end.
G'day.
Hello, Michael.
Yeah, come on, you.
I'm Tony Robinson.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
This is our camera crew.
Come on in.
Thank you.
Where'd you walk?
Not from England, no. Michael, the reason that we've come over is that we've been doing a lot of research on the Plantagenets, of which you are
One, yes.
a very distinguished one.
Very distant one too.
Just looking at the top bit, see, the kings of England, starting with Henry II and further back right to William the Conqueror and beyond that to Alfred the Great. I went over the now familiar pattern. Wars of the Roses, Clarence, Henry Tudor, and of course the missing link in the royal chain. All of that's okay.